we were talking about Liver King, and I mentioned I don't know if I'm just hearing about him more because like I clicked a video and then now the algorithm is just giving me Liver King stuff, or if he's continuing to blow up. But I guess it's been what, like a year or so that he's been out there.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't see your video on it, but I know you were talking about how like maybe things have changed since you made your video on him. I don't know if you want to like elaborate on that at all.
Yeah. So I initially wanted it to be like not just a video slamming him or like a natty or not on him, because let's face it,
Right.
he doesn't really need one of those. Like it's pretty clear which side of the fence he's on. But so I wanted to do a video just assessing his primal tenets, it's like cold and shield and all this other
Mhm.
caveman bullshit. And it wasn't too bad, right? Like a few of them, you ground, you put your feet on the bare earth, and this grounds you to the earth or some bullshit. That didn't really have any kind of evidence for it. But overall, I think if most people added these into their lives, they would probably be better for it. So overall, it was positive. But since then, he's just been like a big bag of shit. I mean, to the point where I've even thought about deleting that video just because it's like mildly positive, and
Hmm.
I think you know my views on him have changed quite a bit. I used to think, oh, he's a little bit rough around the edges, but like not too bad. Nah, nah, definitely in the big bag of shit category. And it's clear he's just in it for the attention and then
Yeah.
to push the supplements, and he does get people talking about him one way or another, like doing all kinds of weird caveman stuff in New York City and whatnot, firing guns, which is as primal as it gets,
Right.
that kind of
Right.
stuff. Using a tank to blow stuff up. Really, just our ancestors could totally relate and jive with the stuff he's doing, um, as well as all the liver, which people wouldn't actually have access to that much liver because that doesn't make any sense. What would you need to slaughter 20 cows per village every day to get the liver? That doesn't really add up, just mathematically speaking. So yeah, overall, my verdict is that not good overall.
Yeah,
Pretty useless.
I think it's interesting when you get to that point because we have, and obviously it's going to be every variation in between, but we have people who like they're just like brutally honest with just about everything, and it's hard to know if they're truly honest about every single thing. But like I'd say you're very open and like, hey, here's my crappy pictures, and here's my really good pictures. Here's when I'm bulking. Here's when I'm cutting, and I'm glad to see that that's out there. And there are a lot of people like that. And then you have probably the norm, which is like they're not blatantly lying, but hey, like I'm gonna post my best pictures, I'm gonna sell my supplements. And like I actually don't have that much of a problem with that because it's like, look, like the guys like you and people like that calling stuff out is fine. I mean, it's good. It's more honest, but I like the whole, they say lying by omission. I think if you're like, it's understandable that as a business, you're going to post that just like, doctor, plastic surgeons, they're going to post their before and afters that are beneficial, right? Like where everybody had like the best results. That's just kind of how things are. But I think when it comes to like the ones who are just blatantly flat out lying, that to me is like, where did you get to that point where it's
Yeah.
just like a just complete nonsense? And he's a pretty extreme level of that. Like even somebody like some of these Hollywood actors, they tend to just avoid the question of steroids and whatnot. Whereas,
Yeah.
I saw Liver King on Logan
He goes after
Paul's.
it.
Yeah, yeah. I saw him on Logan Paul's podcast, and he was like, if you don't think this is possible naturally, you're a subprimal, which I feel like it's his equivalent of like an incel or something like that. And he's just like, these subprimals, they don't believe. And he's like the classic bullshit steroid user argument of like, I've only put on 1 pound per year for the last 25 years since college, where I'd already been lifting for like 10 years. And it was just like, that classic argument. And it's interesting though, I guess it's like, okay, so I mean, you're a role model for your kids. Are you telling your kids the truth? Or that are you just say, hey, like your kids are eventually going to hopefully have the intelligence to realize that you're just blatantly lying too. So your entire life was just built on like lying to people. It's weird. It's like it's weird to imagine just like waking up every day and be like, I am just going to be a complete and utter fraud.
And it's like it's gonna catch up eventually, right? Like it's one of those things where you tell one lie and then you cover it up with another lie, and you just cover it up and cover it up.
Mm-hmm.
And he's built like just this pyramid, this palace of lies, and it's just so unnecessary as well. Like if he just said yes, I don't think. I mean, it might hurt his business a little bit, but I don't think it would be like, oh, he can no longer survive. He's making millions and millions and millions of dollars,
Yeah.
like multi-millions of dollars through his supplements. Like, I think people would actually just appreciate the honesty. But he's too far beyond that, right? Because he lied and then he lied more and then he lied.
Yeah.
And so now he can't, right? He's just
Well, he
stuck in that
definitely
trap.
can't now, but yeah, I mean, if I'm trying to be objective about it, I do think it would hurt his business a lot because we're imagining people like us. But the reality is, like, the biggest market is the general population, and the general population who sees him, they haven't worked out, they're 40 pounds overweight, and they think, wow, look, at this is the ticket. And if it's like, hey, this is the ticket because he's doing this primal lifestyle and all this stuff, if you throw in, if he says, hey, I'm also taking steroids, they're like, oh, that's why. So I actually do think it would harm his business a lot. And I understand financial motives. It's just interesting to choose that path of just, it'd almost be like being like a defense lawyer for rapists. It's like, can you wake up every day and do that? I mean, some people do it, it's hard to to live that life.
I mean, yeah, he should be in the Olympics for the mental gymnastics competition if he feels like even remotely not shitty about himself.
Right. Yeah.
Some people can do that. Like they can just, I'm helping people. Like I'm transforming their lives. Like I can tell this little lie and then, but it's for the greater good because no one thinks about themselves as the bad guy, right?
Sure.
They're all like, they justify it in some way. And so I'm sure he tells himself stories at night about how he's actually doing good things. But I don't think many people in the know would really agree with his assessment of the situation.
Yeah, there's a good book called Mistakes Were Made, but Not by Me. And the overall book is good, but it talks about how, we're very easily convinced of things or, false memories it talks about as well, but how like a lot of justifications, right? And this is very common. You have doctors who maybe like they overcharge for a procedure, but they say, hey, this person's still benefiting. I mean, and the reality is we all make justifications in life, right? Like obviously we all try to justify the decisions we've made. So I'm not trying to say anybody here is perfect, but I think for somebody like that, for like Liver King, it probably is easy to say, well, by following this diet, a lot of people are going to improve their health, which could maybe be the case if you're losing weight. And, like if you're obese and you're eating the standard American diet and you go to a carnivore diet, you probably are going to see improved health markers in a lot of ways. You're going to be, probably significantly less obese. So it's probably a justification in that regard. And like you said, some like the tenants, hey, get outside more, this and that. Although he did have a bit on saying like he was really talking poorly on sunscreen. And I was like, man, I don't know if you really want to advocate people just being outside like all the time with no protection at all. But yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting to kind of observe it from the outside.
Yeah, no, it's pretty clear he doesn't. I would really have liked to sort of like, he must have a social media team. I'm pretty sure he does.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I would love to be a fly on the wall with those conversations about how what is their game plan? How do they make decisions? Because it's not just him like, oh, let's chuck around some weights. I read an article about him, and yeah, he has a whole team, and they're all like, they set everything up, and everything is planned out in advance.
Yeah.
And so I would really be curious as to what their decision making process is, because it seems like very quote unquote natural and instinctive and just sort of organic the way he puts it out there. It's not. Most of social media is not organic at all. It's just, especially with these bigger accounts, everything is planned out. And I think most people don't realize it's a team, right? Like if you DM someone with 1 million followers, you're probably not talking to them, right?
Yeah, sure.
Just, I saw Dorian Yates has like a coaching special on, oh, DM me the word champion or something, get to work. Well, you're probably not talking to him. You're
Dorian Yates, yeah.
Yeah, so I think most people don't realize it's a business.
Sure.
It's a business. And usually the people who make it to the top are those who are business focused and know how to optimize their posts and everything to diddle that algorithm and get everything moving upwards in the right direction. And, it can be frustrating watching this happen when it often rewards people who probably shouldn't be rewarded. I know that sounds like, you know, a little bit, mildly jealous or doesn't really seem, it's just being honest. Like, a lot of the people who get big probably aren't the people who are doing the most good.